The inverse of a function f is denoted by f with a superscript -1. You can read f with the superscript -1 in two ways. First, you can read it as the inverse of f, or you could read it as f inverse. The notation f of x, function notation, is used for functions, but the relation f inverse may not even be a function. Problem 4. Finding an inverse function. Consider the function f of x equals the square root of the difference x minus 2. Part A. What are the domain and range of f? Well, the radicand cannot be negative, so the numbers x greater than or equal to 2 make up the domain. The principal square root is non-negative, so the numbers y is greater than or equal to 0 make up the range. Part B. What is f inverse, the inverse of f? We'll start by rewriting the function f of x equals the square root of the difference x minus 2. We'll then rewrite the equation using y rather than function notation and f of x. With y in place, we'll now swap x and y. Since x equals a principal root, x must be greater than or equal to 0. So we now have the equation x equals the square root of y minus 2. We'll square each side to work to isolate y, so x squared equals y minus 2. And then solve for y to find that y equals x squared plus 2. And now we'll replace y with f inverse of x to rewrite in function notation and indicate the inverse, and state, so f inverse of x equals x squared plus 2 for x is greater than or equal to 0. Part C. What are the domain and range of f inverse? Well, part B shows that the domain of f inverse is the range of f. That's the numbers x greater than or equal to 0. Since x squared is greater than or equal to 0, x squared plus 2 is greater than or equal to 2. Therefore, the numbers y greater than or equal to 2 make up the range of f inverse. Note that the range of f inverse is the same as the domain of the original function f. Part D. Is f inverse a function? Explain. For each x in the domain, x greater than or equal to 0, of f inverse, there is only one value of y in the range. So, f inverse of x, which equals x squared plus 2, for all x's greater than or equal to 0, is a function. Recall that this can be confirmed graphically, graphing the function f inverse, noting the domain and range, and checking to see whether or not f inverse is a function with a vertical line test. Your turn, part A. Let g of x equal 6 minus 4x. What are the domain and range of g? Part B. Let g of x equal 6 minus 4x. What is the inverse of g? Part C. Let g of x equal 6 minus 4x. G inverse of x equals negative 1/4 x plus 3/2. What are the domain and range of g inverse of x? And part D, let g of x equal 6 minus 4x. G inverse of x equals negative 1/4 x plus 3/2. Is g inverse of x a function? Explain.